Welcome once again to 720 and 720. We're going to stay with the football theme. As Alan LaForce, my former boss, always wanted to be a football coach, so did I. I thought it would be cool. We've got a legend joining us today, and that's Mike Ayers. Mike Ayers was a football coach at Wofford for about 113 years, and one of the most successful people in football coaches I know. Welcome, Coach Ayers, to 720 and 720.
Thank you, John. Appreciate having me.
I would think that most people in the football world know Mike Ayers, but Coach Ayers, what you did at Wofford, and that's become a national power in FCS. What you did at Wofford with limited funds and limited facilities. And I always remember when I was the head coach at Chattanooga watching you in the semifinals of the national playoffs. And I remember them talking. You had, what was so unique about your wide receiver you had at that moment?
He was legally blind.
Okay, so you had a legally blind wide receiver.
Right.
I don't know if that puts you as an unbelievable coach or a coach that doesn't have a whole lot of sense. But you had a legally blind, and he caught a couple passes, did he not?
He did. The young man's name was Isaac Goodpasture, and he had macro degeneration. I think that's the term. And basically what happened was the eyesight straight ahead was impaired to where he was legally blind, and then his peripheral eyesight afforded him an opportunity to not be totally blind. And he was one of those guys that just would not let life beat him. He was extremely tough-minded, and he was a good athlete. Ran well. He didn't have super speed, but he had good speed, and he just had a knack for getting open. And the thing about him that was phenomenal was that the guy just didn't drop him. If it hit the leather on his hands, he was catching it.
Well, you are okay. So let me. I just want to make sure I get this right. All right. At Wofford, and Wofford was not. I'm just going to tell you. See, we know each other from East Tennessee State too, but we're not talking about a power of unbelievable proportions at one time. But 5 Southern Conference championships, 8 NCAA appearances, 5-time Southern Conference Coach of the Year, and a National Coach of the Year. Is that correct? Did I forget anything?
Well, the thing you forgot is all of that occurred not because of me, but because of my players and my coaches. I was just a guy that was lucky enough to have his name on the last door in the office suite.
Well, I can assure you that I understand, and that's what makes you successful. And Coach Ayers, this is a podcast where I'm just trying to help young coaches and players, but this is really for young coaches, whether it be a football coach, a basketball coach, a baseball coach, any guy trying to become the next Mike Ayers. Looking back on your career, and because this past year was the first year you've been out, but looking back on it, give me some thoughts on why your teams were successful. I mean, you were undermanned all the time, but you competed with the big boys, and you competed on the national level in your division with the NCAA. How and why?
Well, I think first of all, it starts with the people. Anybody associated with the program, we tried to make sure that they were the right kind of people. You look at a place like Wofford, and you've got to start from the recruiting standpoint of academics first, athletics second, and go from there. And quite frankly, there was a lot of guys that we recruited that a lot of people didn't recruit. But because of the system that we put in place, we ran triple option, old wishbone football. We played old-fashioned 50 defense, and we felt from a philosophic standpoint that we could get guys to play in both of those systems. They may not be the biggest, fastest, or the strongest, but the two systems would allow us to compete and, to a certain extent, level the playing field. You have, I think the big part is you've got to make sure from the get-go that everybody understands what your culture is going to be, not what your offense is about or your defense, but what your culture is going to be. And you've got to make sure that everybody understands that we do not have all the bells and whistles, but that is no excuse for a lack of success. When we started at Wofford, we inherited a team that none of the players had a successful season. None of them had a winning season. And we started from the get-go that there was no excuses. Our locker room was our locker room. It wasn't very good, but that didn't matter. That wasn't going to be the difference maker on the field come Saturday. And we worked hard. We demanded. We did not take any shortcuts, whether it be in recruiting, whether it be in conditioning, whether it be in the classroom setting. We were going to try to do everything that we could to be the best that we could be for our kids, and in return, they would reciprocate back to us as coaches and to the program. And if you have guys that are me guys, you're in trouble. Those kind of guys right there, bottom line is that they won't fit our niche. And so it was imperative that from the get-go we tried to understand the guys in the recruiting process. We tried to have pointed questions that basically dealt with what they were like as far as people, and what they valued as far as people, as far as athletes, as far as student athletes. And we did our best to do our homework to make sure that the guys that we brought in were the right kind of guys. Were we 100% at that? No, but we did our best to try to be as close as we could on every guy, to make sure that when he got there, he understood what was going on. And that was another thing. We didn't paint rosy pictures. Matter of fact, when in our recruiting process, we tried to de-recruit guys. And it came down to letting them know up front, letting their parents know up front that this is how it was going to be. And the way that we were going to operate was our way. And if you wanted a place that was going to be easy, whether it be in the classroom or on the field, you were at the wrong address. You better find another zip code, because that was not what we were about.
Well, you sound like do you know Rick Byrd at Belmont? You know of Rick Byrd, basketball coach at Belmont?
No.
He is you as a basketball coach. Not as attractive as you. He doesn't put a trash can to his head, and he doesn't know karate. He plays golf for a living after coaching. All right, but Coach Ayers, what he did in recruiting and is he told the truth, and he didn't sugarcoat anything. He didn't put them up in the nicest hotel. He put them up with his players. They didn't eat at the nicest restaurants. They ate in the dining hall, the cafeteria. And
That's exactly it.
he made it real. And in today's, you're saying no me guys. Well, it's amazing. Your last 2 years at Wofford, you were 10-4, 10-3. You went to the quarterfinals both year in the me generation at a non-me program. So how on earth did you find non-me guys to come to Wofford to go win football games in this day and age?
Well, I think you gotta reach out. You gotta go to places where the coaches and the style that those coaches are as far as their coaching, their culture, and uh, and the bottom line is go to guys in the recruiting process that when they tell you something, it's the truth. And if they tell you that a kid's a good kid, that a kid will get after it, he'll fight the fight, and do the things that are necessary. And again, it's that process of doing your homework. Too many times guys go in and they recruit kids, and what they want to hear is, "Oh, he's super this, he's super that." Well, what I want to know is what the guy's like when adversity hits. The big A, adversity, uh, that's going to basically be the litmus test.
Well,
And we did our best to try. And when we brought them in, and I always had one-on-one with every player. We would sit in my office, and one of the questions that was always in the conversation was, "Have you ever faced adversity, and how'd you respond to it?" It's amazing. It's amazing the stories that come from just that question.
yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, and I think a lot of people would like. You said you had a bunch of questions in recruiting. That was one of them. What are some other? I mean, I'm just curious. What to test kind of who they were. What questions did you ask?
Well, I first of all, the one of the questions that we asked, I said, "Do you like football?" And if they said yes, I really didn't want to hear yes. I wanted him to correct me and say, "Do you mean I love football?"
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big deal. You got to love football. You got to love the process of football, because bottom line, I I don't know how many people know where Spartanburg is, but in July and August, uh, it, the Sparkle City is super, super hot. And, we'll be in 120 heat index practicing. And, a lot of guys, uh, you know, they, they can play golf in that weather, but they can't play football in that weather.
So
And they can't practice in that weather.
you really would ask, "Do you like football?" And
Yeah.
if a kid said, "Yeah, yeah, I like football,"
Yeah. Yeah.
then you remember that and you put that down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so if a
And,
kid
and,
corrected you and said, "No, coach, I don't like football. I love football,"
right.
all of a sudden
Right.
that separated that kid.
Yes. No doubt. No
Uh,
doubt.
that's interesting. Give me another, because okay, let me ask you this. An assistant coach comes to you and says, "Coach, we can get involved. Oh my God, this kid's talented and this and that, and he's at a 2.9, and he had screwed up a little bit. There's always those risk kids. Did you ever fool with those risk kids, or did you say absolutely not? Let's toe the line and let's do what we do, and that's who we are."
Well, I think that the thing of it is, you got to understand that, there are guys that have made it through life, and they've made it through life, and they've had two parents, and they've had great leadership throughout, and they've had situations, quite frankly, where life has been good, life has been great, and it's one of those deals where that those guys right there that, they turn out to be the guys that everybody wants. You have guys that may have struggled in the classroom, may have struggled in life, uh, and the bottom line is, where's he at now as far as decision making? And don't get me wrong, there were certain things that if they crossed the line, that there was no need for any conversation. That we wasn't going to recruit him, and so we found that out from the get go. And you've got to have a heart to heart with those guys that you know you know that they have the ability. It comes down to, are they willing to kick it up a notch and do the right things? And there's conversations that I had, and we would say, okay, that this guy's worth a shot. And it never came down to the the deal of, is this guy going to be a super guy for us and all
Mm-hmm.
that. I don't think it ever came down to that. uh, Philosophically, you know I was about doing my best to try to give young men an opportunity in life. And I was blessed to have a chance to play college ball, and I had a coach that gave me a second chance. And I always remembered how I valued that coach trusting me, because, quite frankly, that coach, I named my son after, and my son named his son after that man.
Yeah.
And so the moral of the story is, there are guys that, that, hey, we all make mistakes. There's certain mistakes, you can't tolerate, you can't allow in your program. But, if a guy is one of those guys, and he just hadn't had the guidance that he needs, he hasn't had the strong hand that he needs to, you give him a shot.
I
And
I'll tell you this: what you did at Wofford, and I don't, and what we're talking about is, if you took your team somewhere, you had the worst looking team at the airport. Uh, you had the worst looking team at the airport, but they'd always kick your tail on the field. And you could, for somehow, some ways, I don't know, you could measure heart where a lot of people can't. You did. And I had teams where they looked good in the airport and we couldn't play dead. But you always went with character and academics, and yes, they could play, but you always went with that, and you stayed true to that. How did you stay true to that? Where a lot of people start that way, and then things get in the way. Now I got to win some games, and my contract's up, and I may have to take a risk. How did you stay true to who you were in this stupid, crazy world of college athletics?
well, it's definitely crazy. First of all, I was blessed to, be at a place where I trusted the guy in charge, and I'm talking about the president, Joe Lassane, when we got there.
Well, you were very
And,
smart. You're the only guy I know to put him on staff. So you had the
well,
president teaching offense. He was the offensive line coach. That was smart, coach.
well, it was one of those deals. He was a football coach disguised as a president,
Yeah,
but
I
that's a
understand.
story for
Absolutely,
another time.
absolutely.
But it's just one of those things, I think, where uh, when I took the job, I had 11-month contract. And in the state of South Carolina, it's known as an at-will contract. At will, they can fire you. Well, I told them, I said, you won't ever have to pull that on me, because if I'm not doing the job, and I told them this, if I'm not doing the job, you won't have to fire me. I'll quit. And we went with it from there.
Yeah, but coach, the guys who stay true to their principles, and I'm going to tell you, I think about 15 to 20% of coaches do that. You were one of them that did that. You stayed true all the way through your whole career. I want to know. I mean, I know our listeners want to know, but I want to know too. How do you do that? How do you stay completely true when you got a chance to go somewhere and do that? I mean, you had plenty of opportunities to leave. You had huge success, and you had plenty of opportunities to get to maybe upgrade your talent, but you always stayed very true to who you were.
Uh, Bottom line, I it was a quality of life for my family. It was it wasn't about the money. It was about, I was blessed. Julie and I, we were blessed to have three great children, and they Spartanburg, great place to live, and uh, I can remember, getting calls from this guy and this guy and this agent and that agent and all this stuff, but it was never about the money. It was about the quality of life for my family. I loved the type of kids that we were able to recruit and to coach, and that I was happy. I love the challenge. I'm a hard-headed hillbilly that, uh, if you told me that I couldn't do something, and because I'm not smart enough, big enough, strong enough, or whatever, I was going to do everything I could to prove you wrong. And you know, you you take it from, I can remember, my dad, and the life that we had, growing up and stuff like that. And when I turned 14, he said, "It's time for you to get a job, boy." And right then, a garbage truck pulls up outside the house, and he said, "Go ask that man there on that truck if you can work." And I started working when I was 14, throwing garbage. About killed me, but what don't kill you makes you better, and it did. So it's crazy. I was a very blessed individual, and I was very blessed to have the players that we had, and coaching staff. Oh, some great men, some great men.
Well, what you did for those kids, and the success you had, you did it. You did it through the process. It didn't come easy. You didn't think about. You just followed the process, and your process probably had core values in your process that you believed in every
Sure.
single day. One or two core values, Coach, that
Well,
you instill with your kids every day.
first of all, honesty. Be honest, and second of all, do your job. Uh, After every staff meeting, we'd end it with "do your job," and we would try to impart that across to our guys that you know that this is a team, and you're a part of this team, and for us to be successful, each and every guy must do their job. And you have the core values of work. You try to find those guys that are mentally tough, and that's part of the things that you ask coaches when you're recruiting kids: is the kid mentally tough? And uh, we knew and we felt that uh, the process that we had was a process that was going to challenge guys physically as well as mentally. And so you got to have those guys that are willing to, you know, have that early AM practice, and then come right back out, that afternoon, and have that second practice, and be able to give you what you need to do, or to get to be able to do what you need to do later on come Saturday.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to give you a compliment here. Your basketball program at Wofford now is pretty good, and like really good,
Yep.
like almost elite now. And he's been to a bunch of NCAA tournaments. He didn't start like that. When he became a head coach, Mike Young, he was good, but he wasn't phenomenal. He's now phenomenal. But his kids all of a sudden started looking like your kids, and started and started having the same mentality. It really started with a kid named Noah Dahlman, and Noah Dahlman was a tough guy. Looked terrible. He was a 6'5" white kid who couldn't jump, couldn't dunk, couldn't do anything, but he was so mean and tough. All he did was win, and he changed the whole culture of the program. So I'm going to blame my departure at Chattanooga on you, because I couldn't beat Mike Young anymore, because I do think Mike Young, and I know you all are very close, I think Mike Young started taking a little bit of your philosophy on the toughness. If you've got kids who are tough, you'll be in every single game. I think
Right.
talent, looking back on it in my career, I think talent, you got to have talent, no doubt, but I think talent's overrated to a big point. What's your thought there?
Well, I think what you've got to do is have talent that fits your system.
Yeah.
And if you have a system that requires X, and all you have is the Z players, then you're not going to be successful. For us, and it came down to our philosophy as far as being able to run the football, being able to play keep away from these fast executing offenses. Playing defense and be able to play defense even if you have to play 25 snaps in a row. And that mental part of it, that physical part of it. I can remember us playing, South Carolina. I can remember us playing Clemson, and our kids truly believed that if we played at the level that we were capable of playing and doing the best we could do, that we would have a chance to win the ball game. They never felt like that they were out of the vicinity of winning. And we would go out there, and I mean, there were some tremendous games.
Well, that's the first time you've talked about winning this whole talk, and you won a lot. But I think that's the key. I think if you get the right kids and you get the right mentality and you got the right culture, the winning takes care of itself.
Right.
And I messed that up quite a bit. I started that way. I didn't end that way. But I started that way where the winning just took care of itself. When you focus on winning, bad stuff happens, and that's called taking shortcuts. And you talked about that earlier. You didn't take shortcuts. And 5-time Southern Conference Coach of the Year. You also had a kicker. Did you not have a kicker? Like, you didn't have a kicker one year, and you had to go find one on campus.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was one of those deals where, as luck had it, you were low in numbers on, the kickers, and all of a sudden, you get another injury, and guess what? We don't have one. And so the soccer team used to practice next to us, and when our last kicker couldn't go from a health standpoint, we took a walk over to the soccer field, talked to the soccer coach, and asked for some volunteers. We had a guy that volunteered, and he came out, and and he helped us out.
I think you went to I think you may have gone to the semis that year, the national playoffs.
I think so.
I do. I think I was with your wide receiver too. All right. Best win. What was your best win? And that includes being
gosh.
at Buckland, beating NC State 25-10 way back in the day. I still remember that one. What was your best win as a coach?
Gosh, there was way too many. Everyone was a great one.
I know.
Everyone was a best one.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Hard to win games, isn't it? Hard to win. People don't understand how hard it is just to win one game, one basketball game, one football game. How much effort goes into that deal? Best moment. Give me a couple good moments before we call it a day.
Oh gosh, probably. Believe it or not, it was probably the deal where, we had been, we started out as an NAIA school, and, we take over a program that the year before was 1-10, and we had inherited a bunch of guys that were, quite frankly, they were beat down, no confidence, no belief in what they were doing, and we, that first win in '88, I believe it was against Lenore Ryan, and that the excitement. The tears, the back slapping and all that, where the kids finally said, "Golly, this is our." I don't know if it's second or third game, but we've already tied the record from last year.
Yeah.
And we went on, and we went 5-5. Next year, 6-5, and then we started rolling. And so, it was, I think we went 9-3 playoffs and all that stuff. And then, the other one was, when we went into the Southern Conference, everybody said, "Oh gosh, you can't win. You're too small, blah, blah, blah." I can remember, I've got an article from the Spartanburg Herald that a guy said Wofford would be the whipping boy. And, we opened up against VMI, and we beat them. And so that one there was kind of a sweet moment. But as we all know, that next one's coming, and we didn't have a whole lot of time to be patting ourselves on the back. We had a lot of work to do.
I don't think people really realize how many students now at Wofford.
I think now there's probably 1,500. When we were first starting out, I think it was 1,050.
How about that? And average ACT or SAT score?
They were pretty good. If I start talking like that, you'll say I'm bragging.
Yeah, I know. Well, you can brag because you're never going to take another L. You can do whatever you want to do. No, Coach Ayers, I appreciate your time. You're one of the special people that was in the coaching profession. You're one of the special people in my life. I think I probably got to know you through Al and the Force, and you all had very similar beliefs on how to coach. You're a Kentucky guy, correct?
Right.
I mean, you both are Kentucky rednecks and both tough guys who kind of grew up the same way. And Coach DeForest grew up. He said, John, I grew up so poor I had to wear the same outfit every day of the school week. And he said people would make fun of me and say, "Alan, you're so poor, you got to wear the same clothes every day." He said, "No, I'm not poor. I'm just very superstitious. I just wear the same stuff. This is my lucky outfit." And so. But it's the journey. It's the journey on being 14 years old, working on the garbage truck, or Coach DeForest having to wear the same clothes every day, and you reached the pinnacle in your profession, and you were National Coach of the Year, and the amount of kids that you helped and saved and is unbelievable. So you just need to go back and enjoy now. But thanks for taking time and helping
yes, sir.
young coaches and myself out. And your story is amazing. And if we can all just stay true to who we are and our beliefs, I think we'll maybe have a shot to be another Mike Ayers.
Well, I'll say this in closing. You need to get back into it.
No. You're not talking to me. Let's talk to the young coaches because this is not about me. Listen, you were phenomenal in what you did, and I do appreciate your time, Coach, and taking some time this afternoon to talk to us.
Thanks, babe.
God
bless.
You're the best. Thanks so much.